So just curious. So you said you're at a point in your life where you want to talk about this again.
Yeah.
What happened? What changed?
Hey there! 皆さんこんにちは、アーサーです。今回の動画ではネイティブ同士の会話をお届けしたいと思います。僕がこのチャンネルを始めたのは、一人でも多くの方が英語を単純に学ぶのではなく、英語の感覚を身につけて、世界の人々とつながってほしかったからですね。で、そのために定期的にこういう長めのネイティブ同士の会話をお届けしています。で、今回は僕とアメリカ人の友達のオースティンが日本で ALT になるとどうなるかについてお話ししました。100% 英語での会話になりますが、日本語と英語の字幕が両方ついているので、あなたのリスニングと理解度が気軽に確認できます。ちなみに今回の会話はもともと The Austin and Arthur Show という別のチャンネルで放送されたものになります。字幕がないのですが、それでもたくさんの話が聞きたい場合はぜひチェックしましょう。And with that, let's get started!
Cheers.
Let's cheers it up.
So Austin, what are we talking about today?
Well, we are talking about why I'm wearing this shirt because
Well, I was kind of curious about that too, actually.
So I woke up this morning and I was getting ready to go, and my wife, her sister's in town, so she's taking her sister and my daughter out to go do stuff today, and you know, I decided to be boring and come here. But she comes out and I'm getting dressed and she's like, I want you to wear this today on the show. And I'm like,
Your wife said that?
yeah.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, why? And she's like, well, it just looks nice. So
There you go.
I'm wearing it, Yui.
The man who loves his wife. Yui, be thankful. It's a nice shirt.
Yeah, I like this shirt. It's nice.
It's a little bit like crumply. It's nice. It's like a different kind of fabric
the
style.
fabric,
yeah, I know. It's not like it's worn. It's the fabric style.
Yeah. But we're actually not here to talk about my shirt. We're here to talk about a topic that we've already discussed actually.
Yeah.
But I'm like I said in the previous episode, I'm at a point in my life where I think I want to readdress this.
Yeah.
And that is what it's like being an ALT here in Japan. And then what do you do after that?
So just curious. So you said you're at a point in your life where you want to talk about this again.
Yeah.
What happened? What changed?
Well, okay. So the last time we talked about this was what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, about a year and a half, I think.
Yeah, something like that. And at the time, I had just finished the JET program, and I was kind of in a transition period between being a direct hire teacher and previously being an ALT, right? And my big hurdle at the time was getting a official teacher's license, right? And I want to preface this by saying that the license that I got at the time was not a schooling license. Like I didn't go to a school to get a specific educational teacher's license after taking an exam, right? This is something that you can get sponsored by if you have the appropriate qualifications for by your school. And I talked about how the process of how I got that, right? But now I'm reaching a point because my school has transitioned from being a private girls' school to being
an international school.
An international school. I think we've changed the wording on it, but basically, right? And so the qualifications of teachers has increased, and because of that, my school is now asking me to pursue what's called a TESOL certificate, but then that's supposed to lead into a master's program. So I'm going to have to get my master's degree in the next couple of years, which is a big hurdle in and of itself, but it's kind of made me step back and kind of look at the education system here as a whole, in terms of what do you do if you want to be an English teacher in Japan? Right? We've had people on our YouTube channel that have asked this in the comments. And, it's kind of a weird thing because there's no pipeline system set up for being a foreign English teacher here. You know what I mean? If you're a Japanese citizen, born and raised in Japan, you live here, right? And you think to yourself when you graduate high school or wherever you decide your life, I want to become a teacher. There's a very clear pipeline system that you go to. It's all right, you got to study education. You got to get out and typically you can apply for a teacher's license depending on your degree and depending on the prefecture you're at. If you're in kind of like a more high level area, like Tokyo, for example, you're pretty much expected to get a master's degree.
Yeah, right.
Right. So you usually will get your degree in education, and then you'll go into a master's program for education. Or if you want to be a more specialized teacher, like, you know, like a science teacher or whatever, you'll get your degree in science, and then you'll get your master's in education, right? But it's like there's this huge emphasis on education and getting a master's degree, right? After you get that, then you get hired on, and that's like your starting point as a teacher. Where I think a lot of people, including myself when I first moved over here, it's like the way I would describe getting hired as an English teacher to work in Japan is very similar to how I was approached when I was joining the military.
Oh yeah, talk about that, man.
So what I'm talking about is back when I was young 18-year-old Austin with my nice body. Now it's not nice.
We should really show like that picture of you from when you were 18.
Dude, I graduated boot camp and I was always a pretty skinny kid, but like, man, I had a 6-pack.
Yeah.
Oh God, I missed that. Now I got like man boobs and it's just...
you got a keg instead of a 6-pack.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So so like back when I was 18, I think this is pretty common. Like when you graduate, you'll usually have a person from the armed services, like the military, basically, come as a recruiter to your high school, like kind of near graduation or sometimes during graduation, and they'll talk about joining the military, right? And oftentimes they will say the most outlandish things that just sound wonderful.
Yeah.
Right. So like example, like come join the Navy, like
you'll see the world.
You'll go see the world. It'll be so great. You'll just, it's like basically being on vacation on a cruise for like 4 years. It's like, that's some bullshit right there.
Right.
But it's, you know, and when I was joining the Marines when I was 18, it's like you talk to the recruiter and it's like, yeah, man, dude, you'll get this, this, and this. Like you'll be able to do this. And it's like, it's going to be super fun. And
I remember a Marine recruiter like talked to me in high school.
Yeah.
And it was very attractive.
Yeah. Yeah. And they make it really enticing. And it's like, you kind of understand why they want you to sign the paper. Right. But it was the same experience that I had going through JET.
Okay.
You know, going through JET, it's like, oh, you'll get to experience Japanese culture. You'll get to be like a teacher in real classes. And it's like, man, that is some bullshit.
Yeah. So, you know, so can you give some like claims that you were told and then like what the reality was?
Okay. So one of the things that I think, I want to talk about some of the vague parts and then I'll kind of jump into some of the claims that I was told when I was first becoming a teacher here. Some of the vague parts that I think, recently have started happening with JET is they tend to use really vague concepts instead of like really directly saying that you are a teacher.
Yeah.
Right? Because your job when you're a JET ALT is you are an ALT. It's an assistant language teacher.
Yeah.
But it's like the job requirements and expectations are super vague to the point where it's like the school can kind of just like come up with anything and just put an ALT in that slot.
Yeah.
And so what will end up happening is you'll get ALTs that are alone teaching class, which is what I experienced. And it's not unique to me. That'll just happen, right? You'll get ALTs who literally just are a tape recorder.
Yeah.
Right? Where they show up to class, they don't do any of their preparation. They just get told by the teacher to just say something.
Say this phrase.
Yeah, and they just repeat it, right? And you'll get kind of like everything in between. The problem with that is that you're not legally allowed to teach by yourself as an ALT, which was a huge reason why I went to try to pursue my license, right? And you kind of get like amped up when you're coming over here because JET promises like, oh, you know, you're going to be able to teach your own classes.
Yeah.
Right. One of the things with JET, they never said you're going to be able to teach your classes alone, but they said that you're going to be in charge of your own classes and you'll be teaching and you'll be working alongside a Japanese teacher. But it's like, there was this like feeling of like, you had your own control.
Yeah, right.
You had your own agency in the school. And I think what is a very common experience to people when they come over here as an ALT is they're not.
Yeah.
You're the low man on the totem pole.
Yeah.
And
you're like the errand boy.
Yeah,
basically.
and there's like two different ways you'll be treated as an ALT over here, right? The first way is everyone is very friendly to you, and that's because you're a child.
Yeah.
You're not respected as a teacher.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's so cute. Wow, that's so great. Wow,
well,
you can use chopstick.
It's like how you treat your kid, you know?
Yeah, and it's kind of like nothing you do is like treated it seriously. So like if you're an ALT at your school and like you're never getting yelled at, that's a really big sign that you're probably in that category.
Yeah, that no one's taking you seriously.
Right? It's like, I fucked up. You didn't plan for class. That's fine. Like, I wouldn't expect him to anyway.
If you make a mistake and they're actually counting on you, they're gonna get on your tail about that.
Oh,
yeah.
100%.
Yeah. But if not, it's like, oh, he's just a little kid. He can't do anything. It's fine. Oh, that's so cute.
So that's kind of like the first thing you'll experience. Or the second thing is, and in my opinion, actually significantly worse, is you'll show up to a school and they just don't know what to do with you.
Yeah.
So they'll just be like, I guess join these classes and just kind of be there.
Dude.
And I've heard that that's a really common thing here for ALTs is they'll show up and, they'll kind of just get dumped into a class to kind of like fill the criteria of like, hey, we have an ALT in class, but then you'll get like the teacher here is like, I've never worked with a foreigner before. I don't know how to use you.
Yeah, it was just so funny. So like when I was teaching as an ALT, I never joined the JET program, but I got offered a job to work at a school, and I just remember when I was talking with the teachers, I was going to help. They're like, "Oh yeah, just make the class fun."
Yeah,
it's like how? Oh yeah, just do fun games.
Just be a big dancing white man in the front of the room.
It's like, well, what are you teaching them? Oh, we're teaching them English. I'm like, yeah, I know, but what have you been teaching? Oh yeah, we were doing like we're doing the kateho, and I'm like, okay, but then so can I do a lesson on this? Oh no, you don't have to. Just be fun.
Yeah, and so like that's a really just really depressing thing.
Yeah.
When you start off as an ALT here, because you just don't feel like you have any control or say in your workplace, and there's actually a huge problem with mental health with ALTs here in Japan.
I saw my friends' Facebook feeds when they were ALTs here.
It sucks. It's absolutely soul crushing. I happen to be a little bit lucky because my school respected me and they kind of let me do my own thing at times when I showed competency, but the vast majority of people like that's their experience. And you kind of like some people are able to like kind of grudge through it for 5 years, right? And they finish JET, and like I was saying at the beginning of the episode, there's no pipeline for what to do next.
What to do afterwards. It's like you finish your JET. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And so, historically what's happened, and you'll see these guys, is they just continue being ALTs for the rest of their life.
I've met people like that.
They're like guys.
They're like 40 years old.
Yeah,
and they're still
they're
ALTs.
40, 50s, sometimes even 60s. You'll see these guys who are ALTs. And I had some really good advice from a teacher that I really respect. She came up to me, and this was when I was finishing JET, and she said to me, like, Austin, you're very fun in class, and that's great for an ALT, but you're not going to be young for very much longer.
Yeah.
And it was like, that kind of like shocked me when she said that, because it's a little bit insulting.
Yeah.
But she's like, you're not going to be young. You're going to be old. And for ALTs, like no one wants an old ALT.
Yeah.
They want the young, fun person.
Energetic guy.
Right?
Yeah.
And so if you want to be like taken seriously here, like you need to really pursue some kind of like qualifications into being a teacher.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of like changed my tune on a lot of stuff, especially when I finished the JET a couple of years back, and I've started looking at things, and when you get out of the ALT program, whether it's JET or whatever system you're going, you're gonna hit this glass ceiling because it's like you can register at a school and be like, look, I did ALT work for 5 or 7 years or however long you've done it, and the school's gonna be like, okay, great, so what can you do? And we did activities and stuff. It's like, okay, great. So you did activities. So what happens when we ask you to make a curriculum?
Yeah,
do you know what students are supposed to learn? If we put you in charge of a writing class, do you know how to teach a writing class?
Right.
These are actual questions that you're going to be asked by a school when you're applying. And, I'm going to be honest with you, with ALT experience, you do not have the qualifications to do that.
Yeah, right.
And it sucks because you feel like I hit this feeling after I finished JET where it's like, why was I a JET for 5 years?
Yeah.
I feel like I wasted my time.
Yeah. I mean, it's good for like maybe a year or two or something, but 5 years is a long time.
I felt really frustrated because while I was on JET, I felt like I was progressing myself as a teacher. And I felt like, all right, cool. Like I'm making this progress and like I'm able to teach classes. Like I got my teacher's license. Like we're good to go. Like I'm making these steps. And then that realization hit me after I got out of JET. And it was just like, no, I'm still at square one. I haven't progressed at all.
Yeah.
I don't have the qualifications to teach this writing class. I don't have the qualifications to really make an actual English curriculum.
Yeah. So one thing I want to be clear here though, because you say you didn't progress at all. So what you mean is that they're looking for qualifications and a shikaku. You want to have like
So there's two sides, right?
Yeah.
There's like the feather in the hat. I have passed this program. I have this certificate, or I have a master's degree, or like some hard qualifications, right? But then there's also demonstrating knowledge, right? It's like, okay, well, I have experience teaching a writing class. I know that high school students are supposed to progress here. We're supposed to scaffolding and build up these skills over time, right? Being an ALT, you do not build that, right? That comes from... the vast majority of that comes from schooling.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Like I said, getting a master's degree, you take an education program, they teach you how to do that. Very rarely you can learn this from experience, but that's only if you just happen to win the lottery and get placed in a writing class with a teacher that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you'll get placed in, like, even if you do get placed in a writing class, you'll get a teacher who maybe has the qualifications to teach that, but they're just lazy.
Yeah.
And so they're not doing what they should be doing. And that's horrible for you because that just is like giving you bad habits that they have, right?
Yeah, right.
So it's like, it's such a defeating feeling. And I think that's why you typically see a ton of ALTs here in Japan and not a ton of English teachers. Because it's weird because you'll see in the newspapers, right? You'll see in the newspaper, like, Japan has a shortage of English teachers. Yeah. That's something you've seen for a few years now. Yeah. Like, we need English teachers. Yeah. And I think what a lot of people end up thinking is like, oh, we need more ALTs. But actually, not really. Yeah. There's a ton of ALTs in the country. Like, it's actually a pretty competitive job market. Yeah. Because the demand for it is not meeting the supply. Yeah, right. Right? But the problem is it doesn't pay very much. Yeah. Right. And so if you want to support a family, it's like really hard to support a family with an ALT income. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And, what I think a lot of ALTs don't realize is like they need the qualifications. They need like the hard qualifications. Like if I were giving advice to a person, like they just got on JET or maybe they've been in JET for a while, get a TESOL certificate. Yeah. And what I mean by that, because it's again, even the certificate's misleading, right? Because the cost for a TESOL certificate ranges from $300 to $10,000. Yeah. Okay. Wow, that's a big jump. And so let me explain this, right? So you can sign up for a 40-hour course for $300 and get a TESOL certificate. The problem with that is you're paying $300 for a certificate. Yeah. And what schools really want with this TESOL certificate is they want the knowledge that you got in class.
Yeah.
So when they ask for that, they're actually really asking for you to go to an accredited like university and take like a 120-hour class that's going to cost from like $6 to $10,000.
Yeah.
Because they don't care about the little slip of paper.
Yeah, right.
They want you to attend classes so you understand like how to actually build a curriculum for these classes.
Yeah.
But that doesn't get told to us.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it's just, so to be fair, from the other side, so I know that the majority of ALTs, so let me just start off by saying one of the unique things about you, one of the things I really like about you is like, you're really passionate about your job.
Yeah.
Like you want to be an English teacher, you want to be a good teacher.
Yeah.
Whereas like most of the ALTs are like, I want to come to Japan. This is the easiest way. Let me just come to Japan.
Sure.
Yay, I'm living Japan land.
Yeah.
So like they don't actually care about going the next step as an English teacher.
Yeah.
But if someone were to say, I want to be an English teacher more, they would need to get that certificate.
Yeah. I'm mostly
skills.
talking to people who want to like live here.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a big difference. And I think the majority of ALTs definitely fall into that category of like, I'm just using this as a paid vacation.
Yeah.
And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I mean, how many people do you know that have lived here for like 10 years and have been an ALT for like 10 years?
Yeah.
And it's like they complain about their job a lot. Like, I hate my job.
I don't get paid enough.
I don't get paid enough. And it's just like, dude, first of all, you just got to put in effort and level up.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you can't expect things to just drop in your lap. Like you need to put in the effort. But at the same time, like I really sympathize with people like that because there is no information whatsoever here in Japan about how a foreign teacher becomes like an official accredited teacher.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, so you saw this a lot in, like back in the bubble economy, the growth period in Japan too, where a lot of, sorry, put the cap back on.
How dare you?
I'm sorry, man. Where like a lot of, foreign companies like Ford, like a lot of American motor companies were trying to break into the Japanese market, but the way that Japan does business is so different and it's so opaque. Like they wouldn't teach. It's not really common knowledge. So it's really tough to get in. And that's kind of like what you're saying here. Like if you're a Japanese teacher, you kind of grew up in this situation. You kind of know the flow.
Like
but
I
if
said,
you're coming from the
system, just straight in.
Yeah, but if you're coming from the outside, it's like, oh wait, where do I start?
It's like, no, you didn't graduate from a Japanese university.
Yeah.
You didn't go through the little check marks to reach the credibility of getting the qualifications. It's like there's so much stuff that's hidden and just not talked about. I think it's a really big problem because we've talked about how life is as foreigners. Like that's kind of like the whole theme of our channel.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think both of us have brought this topic up of, how much we really like Japanese culture because of how unique and how it hasn't really changed over the years. But there's things like this with this population crisis. Like, there's going to be a massive amount of foreigners that are moving to this country in the next 10 years. Like massive, like to the point where the culture is going to completely just change.
Yeah.
Right. And, we got to be able to accommodate them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And having these systems where you're kind of putting a glass ceiling on people when they come over here. And you're like, I'm not talking about unqualified people. I'm not talking about, okay, well, we have to have foreign teachers. So let's just pick a guy and put him in a spot to like showcase, look at our foreign teacher.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. Don't do that. Right. But you have people who are educated, qualified people, who want to progress themselves. Like I would consider myself in that situation, right? I want to progress myself, especially when I got out of JET, but I just don't know the direction to go. And it's not even for English teachers. It's like, companies too, like being an engineer here.
Yeah.
It's like you get somebody who had qualifications in another country and then they come over here and it's like, well, you didn't graduate from Japanese university, so I don't know if we can really say your qualifications match what we want, so you can't be an engineer here. Like, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, the system's so different that it's tough for things to transfer, like that's another thing,
Yeah.
because like I feel like you really hit the nail on the head, right? So like there are things here in Japan that make it so like unique and special.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you have the population issue.
Yeah.
Fewer people, population is going down. So you need to get people from outside, but there's no system to accommodate them. So what's that going to look like,
Yeah. And so like you'll run into situations. So I know specifically like the English teacher thing is a pretty, I would say most people are kind of aware of it.
Yeah.
But something that's a huge issue right now is the tech industry.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, first of all, coders don't get paid enough here.
Yes. Well, so that was something I was gonna comment on. So you'll get people in the tech industry, but I want to bring this back to English because I'm more familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll get teachers over here, right? And you'll get somebody with qualifications to be an English teacher. Either they have a master's degree, they have a teacher's license back in their home country, or whatever, right? By law, that person's not allowed to be an upper level job position in a school. I'm talking about like department head. I'm talking about vice principal, principal, like those the positions of job. They're not allowed to.
Okay.
Despite having the qualifications, they could have been like a vice principal or a principal back in their home country, but they come here and they're not allowed to do that. That is a big problem.
Yeah.
And I think it goes beyond the whole like diversity. Like I don't care about the diversity.
Yeah.
I don't care about like, oh, we need to have represent. That doesn't matter
like
to me.
For you, it's more pragmatic.
It's a level of efficiency. It's like you should be looking like who cares about where the person's from? You should be looking at the person's qualifications. And it's like, if this person looks like they'd be a good fit for the job, they should be able to do that. And the path should be available for those people.
Yeah. So Austin, what would you say for someone who is like finishing their ALT stint and they want to stay in Japan teaching English more? What would you say that they should do?
Okay. So the first thing I would highly recommend doing, and like, let's talk about you. This is your last year on JET.
Yeah. And
you've been kind of putting it off. You haven't really done anything. You've just been being a JET ALT, right? Well, it is now November, right? Your job usually finishes in July. So realistically, you've got about a little less than a year, right? The first thing I would do is immediately search for a job. Okay. Right? Put
like
yourself
a non-English teaching job?
Yeah. Well, no. Put yourself like try to apply for a direct hire position. Ideally, try to put yourself in a direct hire position.
What does that mean?
A direct hire is in the school is directly hiring.
Okay.
You. Right. So either you're going to work for a board of education in some region, or you're going to work at a private school.
Okay.
But you're directly hired by that. You're not working for some stupid ALT company or whatever that's going to pay you like, Nijuman.
Yeah.
And you're going to barely scrape by making your rent payments. And you're going to be living out of convenience. Don't do that. It's a dead end area. And it's like, I could not condemn a job more than like those ALT, Kaiwa companies. They're just scum.
Yeah.
But put yourself out there, and specifically, you're gonna have to make a resume. So look up how to make a resume in Japan, because building a resume in Japan is very different from building a resume. Yes.
Very different.
There's different procedures. They're different. Like the structure of it's different. But something that I commonly see, and actually I made this mistake also, but I've recently changed it, is when you're putting your experience in, don't say I've been an ALT for 7 years and I've taught how to control a class. Like the people looking to hire you do not care about that.
Yeah.
They want to know specific skills. So if you're writing down your experience, write exactly what you did. So, for example, if you did a writing class, it's like, I taught a writing class for 3 years. I taught students specifically how to do this thing, this thing, and this thing in class.
So instead of saying I was an ALT for 7 years, say specifically what you did while you were an ALT.
Yes,
okay.
Specifically what you did. If you were an assistant to a homeroom teacher, I assisted being a homeroom teacher. tell the person exactly what you did. Don't do this like vague crap where it's just like, I know how to control a class. I have good speaking skills.
Yeah,
like,
you want to give the reason for that in the resume.
Yeah, so like the person hiring you knows exactly where they can put you in the school.
Yeah.
Because that's the real reason why they're looking at the resume. They're not looking to see, well, is this guy a nice guy? Do they know how to like, conduct themselves in class? And they don't care about that. They want to know, okay,
can you fill this position?
Where do I put this person in the school? Like, do I put them in like junior high first level? Are they teaching basic elementary English? Or are they going into an advanced writing class? Like, they need to know which position.
So not just teaching like the kind of class that you did, also tell them the level of the class that you did.
Exactly.
Too. Okay.
Exactly. That is the first thing I would recommend. The next thing I would recommend is saving up any amount of money you can, possibly even looking into loan opportunities if you are working for a school. Most private schools are part of like an association or board of education that offer teachers loans for educational purposes. Look into those, ask about them. And if you need to take them out and get yourself some qualification. So the first thing I would start off is like a TESOL certificate. Don't get the cheap one.
Yeah.
Don't be like, oh, well, this one's only $400.
Go for the real one.
Like, go for an accredited institution. So I'm talking about like university.
Yeah, because so the key thing is don't just get the certification. You really need to get the knowledge.
It's the knowledge. The certification means nothing.
Yeah.
Right? It's the knowledge that you get while getting that certification that's really important. And then, if you're looking really long-term things, I think like if you're going to be an English teacher by profession here in Japan, you need a master's.
Okay.
Like, it's just, you got to get one.
Okay.
So like pursuing that route is like really what
But even if you don't have a master's with a TESOL certificate, you can get a paying job, right?
I would say like if you demonstrate that you went to an accredited institution and got a TESOL certificate and have that knowledge, I think that opens a vast majority of doors, but you're going to hit a point where you need that education degree, that master's degree.
Right.
But I think that's a good stopgap.
Yeah, right.
It's like, all right, I'm going to do this, and then like 5 years or so, I'm going to try and pursue a master's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, that's really good. We have a much more like clear roadmap for people.
Yeah.
And yeah, because for me, I wanted to stay out of this whole system, so I just kind of taught individually my whole time. So I can't share anything, but this has been great to hear.
Like, it's been a topic that I've been really thinking about lately, and I just want to get this word out, especially on the channel, because I know predominantly our audience is Japanese people, but
there's some English teachers who are watching.
You did mention that, but you also mentioned earlier that a lot of our community actually interacts with ALTs.
Yeah, right.
And I think it's really important to understand the situations that these people are in, and kind of the struggles of being an ALT here in Japan.
Yeah. Well, dude, you share that really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was really good. I spoke like 7 words this time, but that's totally fine, man.
Just get it all out.
No, but that was great, man. Yeah. So I think this is going to be really good for a lot of our English speakers who watch this channel. But I'm glad you should. I feel motivated now. This is great.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. I'll just finish. Yeah. So I mean, we're almost. I think our video is almost done.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
I rambled a lot.
No, it's okay, man. It was good though. It was good. I'll see you next time.
Alright, 最後までご覧いただき誠にありがとうございます。やっぱり英語が話せたらこういう会話できたら楽しいなと思う方が多いと思いますが、問題があります。英語のフレーズ、文法をたくさん学ぶのに、いきなり外国人と対面するってなると、頭が真っ白になって言葉が出てこないです。僕も日本語を4年間勉強したのに、実際に日本に行ってみたら、全く話せなくて本当に悔しかったです。でもその経験のおかげで実際に話せるようになった鍵を発見して、今みたいに話せるようになりました。もしあなたは動画を楽しんでいるままで十分と思っているなら問題ないです。ぜひこちらの動画をご覧ください。でももしあなたは英語を学ぶだけではなく生の世界で外国人の実際に話せるようになりたい気持ちがあれば、あなたのために僕と900人以上の僕の生徒が話せるようになった方法を無料ガイドにまとめてみました。And you can get the free guide by clicking up here or by clicking the link in the description box below. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, and as always, enjoy your English adventures. これからも一緒に世界とつながりましょう。See you next time!